The day Naomi Carter buried her husband, she lost far more than the man she loved. She lost her home, her livelihood, and the last illusion that kindness would protect her. And yet, standing in the rain, with a child at her side and another growing inside her, she had no idea that what looked like the cruelest ending of her life was quietly setting the stage for its most extraordinary beginning. The air that morning felt heavy, swollen with unshed rain. Naomi stood at the edge of the grave, one hand resting on the curve of her 7-month belly, the other wrapped tightly around her 10-year-old son Isaiah's fingers. He leaned into her coat, silent, his eyes fixed on the coffin, as if staring long enough might bring his father back. Around them, the crowd murmured in low, careful voices, the kind people use when they think grief makes someone deaf. They spoke about loss and tragedy, about how young her husband had been. Some spoke more sharply, their words edged with judgment. Naomi heard them anyway. She always had. Her in-laws stood opposite her, stiff and dry-eyed and tailored black, their grief neat and controlled. They had never liked Naomi. Not when she married their son. Not when she worked beside him late into the night, helping build a struggling little flower business into something real. And certainly not now, when she was vulnerable. As the final dirt fell onto the coffin, cold seeped through Naomi's shoes. She felt it climb her legs, settle in her bones, but she didn't move. She told herself that after this came the will reading, and after that, safety. Her husband had loved her. He would have made sure she and the children were protected. The lawyer's office smelled of old paper and polished wood. Naomi sat quietly, Isaiah pressed against her side, while the lawyer read, in a voice stripped of emotion. The words washed over her like a promise being fulfilled. The house, the business, and the old van. Relief loosened something in her chest, but it lasted only a heartbeat. Laughter cut through the room, sharp and cruel. Her sister-in-law's voice rose, followed by her father-in-law's, calm but cold. They spoke of family property, of technicalities, of what Naomi supposedly deserved. They spoke as if she were not there. As if her swollen belly and frightened child were inconveniences, rather than human lives. But the older man's authority pressed down hard. Court was mentioned. Money was mentioned. Time was mentioned. Naomi understood the threat immediately. They were daring her to fight while exhausted, pregnant, and broke. She felt Isaiah's hand tighten in hers. The room tilted, nausea rising with the realization that the ground beneath her had vanished. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She simply stood when it was over and walked out with a single set of keys in her hand. 15 minutes later, rain clung to her hair as she crossed the parking lot behind the funeral hall. The van waited beneath a flickering lamppost, hunched and rusted, its paint blistered and peeling. It looked tired, forgotten, exactly how they saw her now. That night, Naomi parked behind a closed hardware store. She wrapped Isaiah in a blanket, squeezed herself into the narrow back space, and stared at the metal ceiling, while voices drifted past outside. People whispered about her fall, about how pride had finally caught up with her. Naomi listened in silence, her jaw set, one hand resting protectively on her belly. By morning, the cold had settled deep. She stepped out into the gray light with nothing but determination holding her upright. She had no house, no shop, no safety net, only a van no one wanted, and a choice to keep going. Days blurred together. Naomi learned where to find day-old bread, and which store owners might offer small jobs. She cleaned, carried, arranged flowers when someone needed help. At night, the van became a fragile shelter, Isaiah drawing pictures on fogged windows, Naomi whispering promises she wasn't sure how to keep. Then one morning, while scrubbing rust from the back door, her sponge caught on something sharp. Flakes fell away, revealing metal beneath that didn't look right. It wasn't dull or gray. It was warm, heavy, catching the light in a way rust never could. Naomi paused. Her heart didn't race. It steadied. She scraped gently, exposing more of it, sunlight glimmering across the surface like a secret. The words her husband once spoke drifted back to her, half remembered. That van is our safety net. Understanding came slowly, like dawn. The panels weren't steel. They were layered, reinforced, lined with gold, hidden beneath years of neglect and rust. Naomi covered it again, her breath careful. She didn't celebrate. She didn't tell Isaiah. This wasn't luck. This was a chance, and chances needed patience. She worked quietly after that. A narrow strip here, a hidden piece there. She sold them discreetly, never enough to draw attention. The money went first to food, to clothes, to vitamins for the baby growing strong inside her. Then to something more daring, a small stall at a street market, a few second-hand vases, fresh flowers bought wholesale. Naomi's hands remembered what to do. They remembered beauty. People noticed, customers lingered, whispers followed her. But they were different now, curious, respectful. Naomi arrived before sunrise and left after dark, reinvesting every spare coin. The van stayed where it was, rusted and unremarkable, holding its secret close. Across town, her in-laws' stolen empire began to rot. Suppliers complained. Bills went unpaid. Naomi heard it from customers chatting idly as she worked, her face calm, her satisfaction quiet. Power, she learned, didn't need to announce itself. By the time her daughter was born, the stall had grown into a corner shop with a green awning and a name painted in gold script. Isa and Rose. Inside, the air was rich with flowers and warmth. Naomi remembered names and milestones, slipping a small sprig of baby's breath into every bouquet like a blessing. The headlines came eventually. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, the fall of the Carter floral chain. Naomi read them without triumph. Justice, she had learned, didn't always roar. Sometimes it simply arrived and stayed. One afternoon, as sunlight filled the shop, her in-laws walked in, smaller now, quieter. They spoke of hardship, of needing help. Naomi listened without interrupting, finishing the bouquet in her hands with care. When she finally looked up, her gaze was steady, not angry. She remembered the van, the laughter, the way they had turned her and her children out without mercy. She declined gently, firmly. Some spaces, she understood now, were too sacred to offer to those who had once tried to destroy them. They left in silence, the bell above the door chiming softly behind them. That evening, Naomi sat behind the counter, her newborn sleeping nearby. Isaiah sketching in a notebook. Through the window, the old van still rested beneath the lamppost, unchanged to anyone passing by. Rusted, ordinary, invisible. But Naomi knew better. Gold had saved her, yes. But it was her patience, her resilience, and her refusal to let bitterness define her that built the life she now lived. Sometimes she thought of her husband, of how he must have known, how he had left her the one thing no one else thought worth stealing. She smiled, breathing in the scent of flowers and possibility. Roots, she realized, didn't need approval to grow. And sometimes, the people who laugh at your worth are unknowingly handing you the key to your freedom. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that even in the rust and ruin of life, there can be hidden gold. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Naomi's place?